And welcome to another episode of Strange Planet. Thanks, as always, for sticking me in your ear. On this episode, my guest will discuss how he believes that dogs, cats, horses, and even some birds have the intelligence and ability to send signs to the living after they pass. He'll also discuss his personal investigations and research in some of the most haunted locations and encounters in Maryland. Rob Gutro considers himself just to be an average guy who just happens to be able to hear, feel, sense, and communicate with earthbound ghosts and spirits who've passed on. He's a meteorologist by trade and uses science to explain ghosts and spirits, how they energize to communicate, and the difference between them. As a teenager, he realized he had the ability to communicate with them. In 2005, Rob's late puppy passed and inspired him to write his first book and enabled him to communicate with pets. Rob participates in private paranormal investigations, helps ghosts cross over, and has provided countless messages from people or pets as ghosts or spirits. He lived in a haunted house as well. He's the author of Ghosts and Spirits, Lessons Learned from Talking to the Dead, Pets and the Afterlife, Volumes 1 through 3, Ghosts of England on a Medium's Vacation, Kindred Spirits, How a Medium Befriended a Spirit, Case Files of Inspired Ghost Tracking, and his latest, Ghosts of the Birdcage Theater on a Medium's Vacation. Rob, welcome. How are you?
Hi, Richard. Doing well, thanks. That was quite a mouthful, wasn't it?
That's quite a resume.
I've been busy.
A meteorologist. So you take a scientific approach to this whole phenomenon. Explain a little bit how that works. What are we talking about here when we're crossing over, no pun intended, from science into the paranormal?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a bridge, but honestly, the science of energy really is the foundation for the paranormal that I've been able to piece together. So it's really that we are energy right now, and that when our physical body dies, that energy couples with our memories, personality, and knowledge of this life. And we stay here either as a ghost, earthbound to a fixed location, or we cross over into the other side, heaven, Valhalla, as a spirit. So there's a difference.
So that's the difference between a ghost and a spirit. A ghost is earthbound, and a
Mhm.
spirit has crossed over.
Yes. Yeah. So your relatives who have passed are likely spirits. So that means that they can communicate with you anywhere, anytime on the planet, any place. Ghosts can only communicate in the location of their choosing when they die.
Now, can we further separate ghosts into different categories? So for example, some ghosts, they seem to be in some kind of endless loop where you see the same specter or the same apparition coming down the same set of stairs, at the same time every night for hundreds of years.
Mhm.
Does that ghost have consciousness, or is that just some sort of residual memory?
It would be more of a residual memory, because what happens is when we enter a place like that where there was either a very happy event or a very sad event, that event, that emotional event, impresses energy in the structure. So when we enter as human beings, as living people, we bring our emotional energy, and that's enough to trigger that rerun of that same event over and over again. So there's no intelligent haunt, there's no interaction.
The medium by which ghosts communicate, and we're all familiar, most of us anyway, with EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, and
Mhm.
sometimes you can get what I guess they call a grade A type EVP. Others are very garbled. But even the ones that are supposedly grade A, um, there's something kind of odd about the voice. It's not it's not like this person is standing next to you speaking. It seems as if that voice is traveling through some different type of medium. Do you have a handle on what that might be and how they communicate?
Well, it takes a lot of energy for either a spirit who's crossed over or a ghost, to communicate, because excuse me, because they need to compile a lot of energy, and it often sounds like it's from a distance, but it's really not. It's usually in the same room.
Right. And because sometimes the voice does not make itself apparent to the naked ear.
Mhm.
Only when you play something back is the voice present. So do you have a handle on what's happening there? Why does that occur?
Yeah, I think because there's different levels of energy, and they speak at different frequencies, so we can't hear all of them with the human ears. That's why digital recorders will pick up the different frequencies. But also, pets have the ability to hear and see ghosts and spirits. If you think of a dog whistle, that's at a different frequency. Humans can't hear it, but dogs can. And so dogs can hear the spirits or ghosts talking at that different frequency that's inaudible to us.
All right. So you mentioned pets. Let's get into pets and the afterlife. First of all, when we talk about pets, are they also potentially earthbound, or are pets typically in spirit?
Pets typically cross over. It's been my experience that about 95 to 99% of all pets cross over. And that's for two reasons. Number one, we have human spirits on the other side waiting for them that are calling them over. And number two, because dogs and cats and other pets can sense goodness and peace and love. That's what the other side is really. It's that kind of energy. So they go to it because they know it's a peaceful place.
And I know that you lost a puppy in 2005, passed away. Is that when you first started to communicate with pets?
That is when I first started communicating with pets. My dog Buzz was tragically killed by a car. He was 7 months old, and his leash opened when I was walking him. And right from the get go, I think probably an hour afterward, he started communicating with me, and I wrote everything down in a journal, and that became actually the basis of my first book. But it was 13 years old when I actually had my first experience, and that was with a human. That's when my granddad, who died in December, decided to show up 7 months later and scare the pants off of me, really, when I was home by myself.
Well, tell me more about that. Was this like an apparition, or just did you hear a voice, or did he communicate? I don't know, telepathically.
Yeah, he was a full color apparition, and it's
Wow.
one of the very few that I've ever seen. So he really wanted to let me know that he was okay. I never had a really close relationship with him. Um, but what happened is I've learned that it turns out my mother has the ability, my grandfather who died had the ability, and that ability was also passed on to me.
And when you say a full-on color apparition, but was he solid, or was he somewhat diaphanous? Was he only visible from the waist up, or what did he look like?
Yeah, it was actually a full body apparition. I mean, I could see his shirt, I could see his pants, I could see he used to wear suspenders all the time. I could see his suspenders, I could see his feet. Um, I have to tell you though, Richard, when I he started coming together, it was like little orbs of light, little balls of light that started to coalesce, and it was about two rooms away from where I was sitting. I was sitting in a kitchen, um, drawing my the comic books that I used to draw, and, and I looked up, and all of a sudden he came together, and I was so scared. I was only 13, 14 years old. I grabbed the family dog that was the only other one in the house, and I ran outside. I was I was just horrified. I didn't understand what was happening. So
Did he
when
make
my
any
parents came
attempt?
home,
Sorry, go
my
ahead.
mother, my mother, I told her, and she explained that there's an ability in the family.
Wow. Did he make any attempt to contact you, or did you just make that visual and then you made a beeline for the door?
And that was it. Yeah, I ran like a scared rabbit.
Wow. And why do you think it happened? Why did it begin for you at 13? Is there something I don't know, special about that age? I mean, does it always happen around that time for people? Or no, that's not true. We know many people that they say it since childhood. But why 13 for you?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think that we're going through a lot of changes certainly as teenagers, and our emotional level is much higher. I was certainly much more in tune with my emotions when I was 13 years old than I was when I was like 8. Um, the other thing that was important that I kind of figured out is that my mother was still grieving his loss, and she needed some kind of closure or assurance that he was okay on the other side. So that's why I think that he showed himself to me. My mother, although she had the ability, she blocked it off. She was afraid of it.
Mm.
So that because she was afraid of it, when you're afraid of it, or when you're in deep grief, you block the messages from spirit. So my grandfather really had no option because my other brothers don't have the ability.
Ah,
But
okay.
so it gave my mother comfort to know he
Right.
was okay.
Sure. So getting back to pets for a moment, you mentioned your puppy, 7 months old, got off the
Mhm.
leash. So I'm guessing you were while you were there, you witnessed that. That must have been just horrible for you to see that.
It was the most traumatic thing ever. And I do a lot of research about scientific studies and psychological studies too, as I've been communicating with pets. And we often grieve more deeply for the loss of our pets than we do for people, because we feel solely responsible for them. I
Right.
mean, we bring them up like children, really, in effect. And it's our responsibility to keep them safe and healthy. So when an accident like that happens, it's beyond tragedy.
Mhm. And so you say within an hour you felt that your puppy was trying to communicate. How did he do that?
Yeah, he did that in a musical way, actually. So even though dogs don't know what songs are really, I mean, they know music certainly. Um, they usually get help from a human spirit on the other side. And what was odd about this is that I was walking him and my roommate's dog. My roommate was out at work at the time, and when I brought when I when my neighbors brought Buzz's body back to my house and we put it in my vehicle to take to the vet, I walked in the door and the radio was playing. Now, I was the only one home and I didn't have the radio on when I left, but the radio was playing a song about a man who loved very deeply for a short time and then lost his love. And that was The Dance by Garth Brooks. And I listened to that lyric. As soon as I walked in, that was the lyric that came on. And then I felt Buzz beside me and he said, "I'm okay. I'm okay, Dad." And so that I put that together. He went on to do a lot of things. He visibly appeared to me. He moved things. He made noises. He jingled his collar. He would walk up and down stairs. Um, and one of the other things that he did too was fascinating was, and this pets do this, they will lead us to another dog or cat that looks like them so that you'll know that they're around. And that happened to me in 2009 in Puerto Rico.
Oh, tell me about that.
So, so Buzz passed away in February 2005, and my husband and I went on a vacation to Puerto Rico. We'd never been before, so we went to Old San Juan, walking around. I wasn't even thinking about what date it was. It was vacation, so um, we came to this rotary where there were streets. There were 5 streets off the rotary, and we had to pick one. So he said to me, which way do you want to go? And I said, I don't know. We've never been here. So um, I thought for a minute, and then I kept getting the feeling that we had to take like the second street on the right. And he said, well, why do you get that feeling? And I said, I don't know. We'll find out when we go down. Well, at the end of the street, there was a dog walker. And this dog walker was walking probably about 8 dogs. I can't remember how many, but one of them was a Weimaraner that looked exactly like Buzz.
Ah,
And then I heard Buzz in my head say, "Dad, do you know what day it is?" And I had to stop and think for a second. It was the 4-year anniversary to the day of his passing.
wow. Wow.
So yeah, so he taught me that spirits will communicate with us on anniversaries, birthdays, and holidays.
So what's the easiest way for them? Is music the easiest way for them to communicate, or
It's really dreams.
dreams?
Yeah, dreams are the easiest way. But one thing that's important to know is that, as I mentioned with my mother, that grief will block any kind of signals from spirit. So your pet or person may be trying to come through to you in your dreams, but your grief will still block it. Um, However, they can be very innovative. And by that, I mean they will go to another person connected to you, and that person will dream about you, knowing that that person will tell you that they're okay. And that's happened many, many times. Um, in fact,
Interesting.
there's a funny story is that a woman contacted me and she said that she was very angry with her husband because her husband's been dreaming about their dog that passed and she can't. So she said, I keep getting in arguments with my husband every time he dreams about my dog and I don't. And I said, well, your dog doesn't want you to get in arguments with with his dad. It's only because he can't get through to you.
So that's an interesting mystery. Why is it that your grief blocks communication? I mean, that explains a lot because there are so many people who say, why, I miss my father or my uncle or my mother or whomever so much, and yet they won't come to me. Why is it grief? Why it blocks that communication?
So I think it's because it's a negative emotional energy. So what I've learned about energy too, in terms of ghosts and spirits, is that they use physical energies and they use emotional energies. So physical energies that they both use are heat, light, water, and electricity. Those are the things that enable them to get strong enough to communicate. But the difference therein is the emotional energies. Spirits of our loved ones who have crossed over use faith, hope, and love. Ghosts use negative emotional energy, fear, anxiety, grief, depression. Those things strengthen a ghost. Also, when you are dealing with a negative energy, when you are like a negative emotional energy, like grief or fear or anxiety, you're also blocking out the positive energy of the spirit who's trying to come through to you.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe at strangeplanetpodcast.com.